to Sleepy Tales of Lore, where listening while relaxing to our sleep stories for grown-ups will end your sleepless nights. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Now, get as comfy as possible with your favorite sleep time things, a soft pillow, a warm blanket, or a cool sheet, wearing your preferred night clothes. Then put your body into its ideal sleep position and think of all the things, or any one thing that happened during this day that you appreciated and are grateful for. Nothing is too small for your thanks. A warm cup of coffee on a cold day, a gentle breeze on a warm summer's day, spending time with your pet, noticing the night sky or a morning sunrise. Being grateful brings more things to be grateful for. And now, as those thoughts fade away, breathe in and out, in and out, slowly, relaxing and releasing whatever needs releasing. Whenever you're ready, allow your eyes to close and just feel yourself releasing any tension in the body, and let go of all the chatter in your mind as you start listening to the story. Permit the sensation of sleepiness to envelop your essence whenever it arrives, and just let go. As you listen to my voice narrate tonight's story while taking you with me on your journey into a deep sleep. There is a place that exists between waking and dreaming, a place that has no name on any map you have ever held in your hands. It is older than language, older than memory, older even than the oldest tree still standing in the oldest wood. And tonight, without quite knowing how, you have begun to find your way there. You feel it first as a softening. The edges of the world you know grow gently blurred like watercolor ink touched with a single drop of rain. The sounds of your ordinary life, the hum and the hurry, the weight of all your thinking begin to drift away from you, slowly, like leaves carried off by a quiet current. Somewhere ahead of you, though you cannot yet see it, there is a forest. You do not need to walk toward it. It is drawing you in the way that sleep draws you in, the way a candle flame draws the eye in a darkened room. Something ancient and unhurried is calling your name in a voice made entirely of rustling leaves. Your feet find a path of soft earth, cool beneath you, cushioned with centuries of fallen leaves that have long since turned to velvet. The path is narrow and winding, and the trees on either side of it grow tall and close together, their branches lacing overhead like the interlaced fingers of old friends. Pale evening light filters down through the canopy in long, slanting threads of silver and gold. The air here is different. It is cooler and sweeter and heavier, with something you cannot name, the green, deep scent of moss and rain-soaked bark, of wild mushrooms pushing up through dark soil, of night flowers opening their pale faces in the dimming light. Every breath you take carries it deeper into you, and with every breath, you feel yourself becoming quieter. You notice as you walk that the forest is not entirely still. There are small sounds all around you, the faint drip of water from leaf to leaf, the murmur of something that might be a stream, far off and gentle as a lullaby, a moth as a petal drifts past your face and disappears into the shadows between the roots of an enormous oak. The trees grow older the further in you go. Their trunks are vast and knotted, wrapped in thick cloaks of the deepest, softest moss you have ever seen. Moss the color of sea foam and sage and the underside of a fern frond. It covers everything here. It covers the roots and the fallen branches and the smooth stones half buried in the earth. It muffles every sound until the forest feels as hushed and sacred as a cathedral. You reach out and let your fingertips brush against the surface of that moss as you pass, and the sensation is extraordinary. It is like touching something that has been sleeping for a very long time. It is like touching a dream made solid, impossible, soft, impossible, alive, cool and slightly damp and full of a deep, quiet patience. And it is then, in the precise moment that your fingers make that gentle contact, that you see it, a light, small and greenish gold, no larger than the flame of a candle, hovering just above the surface of the moss a few feet ahead of you. It pulses once, very slowly, like a heartbeat, and then it begins to move. It drifts along the path ahead of you, unhurried, bobbing gently as if carried on a breath of air you cannot feel. You follow it without a thought, without a question, the way you follow a beautiful dream deeper into itself, without ever pausing to ask where it is taking you. Your footsteps are soundless on the soft earth. The forest holds its breath around you. More lights appear now, one by one, and then in clusters of 2 and 3, each one that same deep greenish gold, each one pulsing with that same slow and steady rhythm. They gather in the hollows of tree roots and in the spaces between stones. They float at the height of your knees, at the height of your waist, higher up among the lower branches where the moss hangs down in long, soft curtains of green. You understand without being told that these are not fireflies. They are something older than fireflies, something that belonged to this forest long before there were names for such things. They are watching you with a gentleness that is impossible to explain, a gentleness that settles over you like a warm and weightless blanket until you feel nothing but safe. The path opens without warning into a clearing, and what you see there takes whatever small remnant of ordinary thought you were still carrying and dissolves it completely, gently, the way morning mist dissolves when the sun finally clears the hills. You stop at the edge of the clearing and you simply stand and you look and you breathe. The clearing is ringed by the most ancient trees you have ever seen, their trunks so wide that 10 people standing with their arms outstretched could not reach around them. Their roots rise from the earth in great arching curves, and in the spaces beneath those roots, in the mossy hollows and the sheltered caves of interlaced wood, there are doors. Tiny, perfect, impossibly beautiful doors. Each door is different from the last. One is made from a slice of polished bark with a handle carved from a curling tendril of ivy. Another is fashioned from a flat piece of slate, smooth and grey-green, with a tiny round window of amber resin set into its centre. A third is woven from dried grasses and threaded through with small white flowers that glow faintly in the dim light, and above above every door, carved into the living wood of the roots themselves, are patterns, spirals and knots and flowing lines that seem to shift and breathe as the golden lights drift past them. You are standing at the edge of the hidden forest kingdom. You have been here before, perhaps, in some dream you woke from and could not quite remember. You have felt this before, this particular quality of stillness, this particular sensation of being held gently in the hands of something vast and old and entirely benevolent. The moss beneath your feet is thick and yielding as a featherbed, and the AIR around you is perfectly, completely still. Somewhere deep within the roots of the greatest tree, the one at the very center of the clearing, its canopy spreading so wide that it shelters every other tree around it, you hear a sound, soft and clear and sweet. It rises and falls like water over smooth stones. Someone, somewhere beneath the roots of that ancient tree, is singing. The singing is so soft that at first you are not certain it is there at all. It exists at the very edge of hearing, the way the scent of rain exists at the very edge of sensing. You are not sure if you are perceiving it or simply remembering it from somewhere deep inside yourself. But as you stand quietly at the edge of the clearing, breathing slowly, not moving, it grows gradually clearer, like a face emerging from fog. It is a single voice, high and unhurried, weaving a melody that has no sharp edges anywhere in it. It rises and it falls, and it curls back on itself like wood smoke, like water finding its own path down a hillside. There are no words you can make out, or perhaps the words are in a language so old that your waking mind no longer holds the key to it. But some other part of you, some quieter, deeper part, seems to understand every syllable. You take a step toward the great tree at the center of the clearing. The lights drift around you as you move, as if escorting you, as if they have been waiting all this long while for precisely this moment. The moss springs gently beneath each footfall, and the singing grows the tiniest fraction clearer with every step, pulling you forward on a thread of pure, sweet sound. At the base of the great tree, half hidden beneath an arch of roots as thick as ancient pillars, is the largest of all the small doors. It is made from a single piece of dark polished wood so old that it has taken on a greenish hue, stained by centuries of moss and rain and the slow breathing of the forest. Around its frame, carved in spiraling patterns that seem to move in the shifting light, are tiny leaves and acorns and the curling forms of ferns unfurling. The door stands open, just slightly, just enough to let a warm and golden light spill out across the moss at your feet. A light quite different from the cool greenish glow of the floating lanterns. This light is amber and honeyed and deeply, quietly warm, like the light inside a room where a fire has been burning low for many hours. It falls across the backs of your hands and it is soft as a touch. You kneel down as naturally and as easily as if you have done this 1,000 times before, and you press your hand gently to the earth and you lean forward. And you look through the open door into the world below. What lies beyond the door is not what you expected, though you find you cannot now say what you did expect. It is not small, the way the door suggested it might be. It is vast in the way that all dream beyond spaces are vast, wider and deeper and higher than the dimensions of the opening through which you entered it could ever logically allow. But logic is a thing you left behind some miles back along the soft path through the trees, and you find you do not miss it at all. You are standing, and you realize without surprise that you have somehow passed through, that you are somehow inside, in a great vaulted hall whose ceiling is the underside of the forest floor above, a canopy of interlaced roots through which the faintest threads of moonlight filter down like silver needles through dark cloth. From every root, from every surface, from every curve and hollow of the earthen walls, moss grows in cascading abundance, deep and luminous and impossibly green. Every shade of green that has ever existed gathered here in one softly breathing space. The air is warmer here than in the forest above, and it carries a sweetness that is almost edible, something of honey and something of rain-wet earth and something of the faintest imaginable smoke from a fire made of sweet-scented wood. You breathe it in slowly, and it moves through you like a tide coming in, unhurried, unstoppable, drawing everything tight and anxious in you gently outward with it as it withdraws. The hall is lit by hundreds of the golden lights, gathered here in great drifting constellations, pooled in the hollows of the roots above you, settled like sleeping embers in mossy niches along the walls. They cast no shadows. They create only warmth and softness, only the impression of being inside something protected and ancient and wholly good. Tiny pathways wind away from the central hall in every direction, some sloping gently downward, some curving up and around the roots in graceful spirals, all of them lined with that deep and breathing green. Along the walls, set into the moss as naturally as if they had grown there, are the most beautiful small dwellings you have ever seen or dreamed of seeing. Some are carved directly into the living wood of the roots, smooth-walled chambers with arched openings hung with curtains of woven grass and tiny flowers. Others are built from flat pieces of bark and pale stone, their roofs thatched with dried moss and lichen in soft shades of grey and silver and dusty green. Each one glows from within with its own warm, private light. And everywhere, on the curving pathways, in the lit doorways, along the mossy ledges of the root ceiling above, there is movement, small, gentle, unhurried movement. The moss fairies are going about the quiet business of their evening, and they are entirely at peace. They are small, though not as small as you might have imagined, perhaps the height of a candle flame, perhaps a little more. Their forms are delicate and luminous, their skin carrying that same deep greenish gold tone as the lights that surround them, as if they are made of the same substance as the forest itself, as if they were grown here rather than born here, shaped slowly by centuries of root and rain and the particular quality of light that filters through old canopies of oak and ash. Their hair is the color of autumn bracken, of pale winter bark, of the first new moss after a long frost. Their wings, where they are visible, are extraordinary. They are not like the wings of any insect you have ever seen, though they share something of the same delicate architecture. They are more like the wings of a dried pressed flower, translucent and veined, faintly iridescent, folded softly against their owners' backs in the warmth of the hall, and trembling very slightly with each breath, the way a sleeping moth's wings tremble in a draught. When the light catches them, they hold every color of the forest, the blue-gray of lichen, the gold of turning leaves, the deep, impossible green of the moss itself. None of them appear to see you, or if they do, they give no sign of alarm. A small group of them pass quite close to where you stand, carrying between them a length of something that shimmers like spider silk and catching the light of the lanterns in long ribbons of silver. They speak to one another in low, murmuring voices, their words too soft to make out, their tone easy and familiar and content. One of them pauses for just a moment and turns her face toward you, and her eyes, dark and luminous and entirely calm, meet yours. She smiles, briefly and without surprise, as if you are a neighbor she passes every evening, and then she turns back to her companions and continues on her way. You stand quite still, held in a feeling that has no simple name. It is something between wonder and recognition, between the feeling of arriving somewhere for the first time and the feeling of returning somewhere you had forgotten you loved. Your breathing has slowed without your noticing. Your hands are open and relaxed at your sides. The tension that lives in your shoulders, that familiar weight you carry so constantly, you have ceased to notice it, has become somewhere in the last few minutes, nothing at all. And then you hear the singing again, closer now, coming from somewhere deeper in the hall, from the direction of the great central root that descends from the ceiling like a pillar in a cathedral. You move toward it slowly, and the golden lights move with you, and the moss is so thick beneath your feet that you make no sound at all, none whatsoever, as if the forest itself is taking care to keep you wrapped in silence. She is sitting at the base of the great root, cross-legged on a cushion of the thickest, softest moss, her eyes closed, her hands resting open in her lap like two small pale leaves. She is older than the others, or not older exactly, but somehow more settled, more present, more entirely herself. The way the oldest trees in the forest are not merely taller than the younger ones, but are something qualitatively different, something that has had time to become completely what it is. Her hair is silver white and loose around her shoulders, and it catches the light of the lanterns in the same way that moonlight catches in still water. This is the moss fairy, the keeper of this kingdom, the singer at the heart of the hidden forest. She opens her eyes, and they are the color of deep forest pools, grey-green and fathomless and entirely perfectly still. She looks at you without a trace of surprise, as if she has been expecting you, not today specifically, not at this particular hour, but in the way that a forest expects the season to turn, in the way that the moon expects to rise. She looks at you the way that only the very old and the very wise look at anyone, with complete and unhurried attention, as if you are the only thing in the world that matters in this moment, and this moment is all the time there is. She does not speak. She simply holds your gaze for a long, warm, wordless moment, and in that moment you feel seen in a way that is also a form of being released, as if being truly looked at, truly witnessed by something so ancient and so gentle, has quietly untied something inside you that has been knotted for a very long time. Your eyes grow heavy with it. Your breath falls into a rhythm as slow and steady as the turning of the earth. She smiles, and it is the most unhurried smile you have ever received. Then she closes her eyes again, and she begins once more to sing. You find, as she sings, that you have no desire to move. There is nowhere else to be. There is nothing else to do. There is only this warm and moss-lined hall beneath the roots of the oldest tree in the oldest forest, and the sound of that voice rising and falling in the amber golden air, and the slow and patient breathing of the kingdom all around you. Everything else, every thought, every plan, every small anxiety that had been keeping some quiet corner of your mind busy, is dissolving as gently and as completely as mist dissolving from a valley floor on a still autumn morning. A mossy ledge runs along the root wall closest to you, wide and deep and curved as if it were made precisely to receive the weight and shape of someone who needed to rest. It is padded with layer upon layer of the softest moss, moss so deep and so fine that it holds the impression of your hand when you press gently into it, the way the most luxurious imaginable pillow holds the impression of your cheek. You sit down on it slowly, and the moss receives you without a sound, and the warmth of the hall wraps around you like something you have been missing for a very long time. Above you, through the lattice of the roots, the faintest threads of moonlight continue their slow and silver descent. The golden lanterns drift at their own unhurried pace, some settling lower now, some gathering near the arched doorways of the small dwellings along the walls, as if the kingdom itself is beginning to ease toward sleep. The murmuring voices of the other fairies have grown quieter. The whole of this underground world is softening by degrees, dimming so slowly and so gently that you cannot catch the moment of change, only notice, after a while, that the light is a little warmer, a little lower, a little more like the inside of a closed eye than it was before. The singing continues without pause, without hurry, without any sense that it will ever end. It winds through the warm air like a ribbon of water through deep grass, finding every corner of the hall, filling every silence so completely and so softly that silence and sound become the same thing. You lean your back against the moss-covered root behind you, and you feel the living wood there, solid and ancient and deeply, immovably calm. You feel the weight of centuries in it. You feel the patience of something that has stood in one place through storm and drought and the turning of 1,000 seasons, and has never once had cause to hurry. Your shoulders drop. They drop further than you expected. They drop further than you can remember them dropping in a very long time, as if they have been holding something at a great height for many years, and have finally, in this moment, been given permission to set it down. The sensation moves down through your arms and into your hands, through your back and into your hips, spreading outward from the base of your spine like warmth spreading outward from a hearthstone on a winter evening. Each breath draws it a little further, a little deeper, a little further still. One of the golden lights drifts close to you and hovers just for a moment, a few inches from your face. This near, you can see that it is not simply a point of light, but something more complex and more beautiful. A slowly turning sphere of pale gold radiance, threaded through with filaments of green and silver that shift and rearrange themselves with every pulse. It is warm without heat. It is bright without glare. It rests in the air before you like a tiny breathing sun. And as gently as it came, it drifts away again and settles among the roots above your head, where it continues its slow and steady pulsing, like a second heartbeat keeping time with your own. A small fairy passes along the ledge near your feet, carrying a bundle of dried lavender and sweet grass bound with a thread of silver. She pauses beside you and looks up with those dark, luminous eyes, and without a word, she sets the bundle down beside you on the moss, and the scent of it rises immediately, dry and sweet and faintly herbal, something between a meadow in high summer and the inside of a very old and very beloved room. She nods once, with the gravity and the kindness of someone performing a ritual they have performed 10,000 times, and then she moves on, back into the gentle business of the kingdom. You breathe that scent in slowly. It is the scent of being taken care of. It is the scent of a world in which someone has thought of your comfort before you thought of it yourself, in which the smallest details of your ease have been quietly attended to by hands other than your own. You breathe it in again, deeper this time, and you feel it move through you the way all the best things move through you, not sharply, not suddenly, but in a long and widening wave, reaching places you had not known were waiting to be reached. The moss beneath you has shaped itself to you completely now. There is not a point of pressure anywhere. There is only the sensation of being entirely, evenly, perfectly supported, held up from below as gently and as thoroughly as if you were floating in still water, as if gravity itself has become something kind, something working in your favor, drawing you not down but inward toward the warm and quiet center of yourself. The moss fairy is still singing at the base of the great root across the hall. You can see her from where you lie, and you realize, without being able to say when it happened, that you are now lying down, your head resting on the deep moss of the ledge, your body stretched out along its warm and giving length, your eyes half open and growing heavier with every slow breath. She sits exactly as she did before, cross-legged and still, her silver hair catching the last of the drifting lantern light, her eyes closed, her hands open in her lap like two small, patient leaves. Around her, without any fuss or ceremony, the other fairies have begun to settle too. Some have returned to their small dwellings in the root walls, and the lanterns in their doorways have dimmed to the softest possible glow. Others have found their own mossy ledges and hollows, and are curled there in attitudes of complete and unguarded rest, their translucent wings folded close, their breathing slow and even and barely perceptible. The golden lights above have gathered into loose clusters near the ceiling, pulsing more slowly now, more faintly, like stars seen through a cloud. The hall breathes. That is the only way to describe what it does, the whole of it. The roots and the moss and the warm amber air and the small sleeping forms of the fairy folk and the ancient heartwood of the great tree at the center of it all of it breathes together in and out, slowly and in unison, as if the forest itself is one great living thing settling toward its nightly rest, and you are part of that breathing. Your own breath finds the rhythm of it without effort, without thought, without your needing to do anything at all except allow it. The singing is changing now, so gradually that you are not sure for a long while that it is changing at all. It has grown slower, the spaces between the phrases stretching out like the stretching of a long and heavy limb at the end of a long and full day. The melody is unwinding, releasing its gentle hold on shape and pattern, becoming something less like music and more like weather, something you are inside rather than something you are listening to, something that surrounds you on all sides and asks nothing of you and keeps you perfectly, effortlessly warm. Your thoughts, if you have them, are not the sharp and purposeful kind. They are the slow, drifting kind, images without urgency, fragments without context, the kind of thoughts that appear at the very edge of sleep and carry with them the particular quality of something glimpsed from the corner of the eye, a color, a texture, the memory of a scent. They come and they pass, and you do not reach for any of them, because there is nothing here that needs to be held onto, nothing that will not still be here when you need it. Everything is safe, everything is kept. The moss beneath your cheek is extraordinarily soft. You notice this again as if for the first time, its particular fineness, its coolness, the way it holds the faintest traces of the forest above, of rain and root water, and the slow green patience of things that grow without hurrying. It smells of the earth that made it, and the earth smells of everything that has ever lived and rested and been restored. And that smell is the oldest comfort there is, older than any word for comfort, older than the need to name what is good. Above you, through the roots, the moonlight has shifted. It falls now at a different angle, longer and thinner and more purely silver, the way moonlight falls in the deep hours of the night when the world has grown fully quiet. A single thread of it reaches down through the lattice of roots and moss and rests across the back of your hand where it lies on the ledge beside you. It is cool and weightless and impossibly gentle, and it does not wake you. Nothing here will wake you. Everything here is conspiring with great tenderness and great patience toward exactly one thing. The Moss Fairy's song has become, by now, barely more than breath. It is there, and then it is nearly not there, and then it is there again, a thread of pure and wordless sound in the warm and sleeping air. It asks nothing of you, it expects nothing of you, it simply continues, the way a heartbeat continues, the way the breathing of a forest continues through the deepest hours of the night, not because anyone is listening, but because this is what the forest does. This is what the forest has always done. It keeps its quiet music going in the dark for the benefit of everything resting within it, for the benefit of the moss and the roots and the sleeping fairy folk and the warm and breathing earth. And for you, let your eyes close now if they have not already found their way there on their own. There is nothing you need to see. Everything worth seeing in this place lives now behind your closed eyes. The amber glow of the lanterns, the slow drift of the golden lights, the silver threads of moonlight descending through the roots, the small and perfect doors set into the living wood, the mossy hall breathing in the deep and ancient dark. It is all there, and it is all yours, and it will be here when your dreaming takes you deeper still into its green and unhurried world. You are held here, you are known here. The hidden forest kingdom has kept a place for you in its mossy heart from long before you found your way to its door tonight, and it will keep that place for you always. A warm ledge in a root-walled hall beneath the oldest tree in the oldest wood, where the lanterns drift and the moss grows, and a silver-haired fairy sings her endless patient song in the amber dark. There is nothing to do now but rest. There is nothing to be now but here. The forest breathes, and you breathe with it, and the song continues, and the lights drift slowly overhead, and the moss holds you as gently and as completely as the earth has always held.